Picture this. You're 14 years old. You're one of the most famous people on the planet. You've just made millions of dollars for your family. And you're sleeping on the couch. Not because there aren't enough beds, but because your father wants to remind you who's in charge. This was Macaulay Culkin's reality. The kid who made us all laugh in Home Alone was living in a nightmare behind the scenes. And 30 years later, he still hasn't spoken to his father. Not once. His story isn't about being cold or damaged. It's about something much deeper, something that thousands of people are quietly experiencing right now. There's a certain kind of person who goes quiet when family gatherings come up. Thanksgiving, Christmas, weddings, birthdays. While everyone else is making plans, they're sitting with a different kind of feeling. Not excitement, not even dread, really. Just a soft resignation, knowing that they'll be the one who doesn't show up. And when people find out, they look at you like something's broken. But it's family, they say, as if those two words should be enough. But here's what they don't see. You're not avoiding family because you don't value connection. You do. You're avoiding them because you finally learned what real connection actually feels like. People who don't go to family gatherings aren't cold, they're not damaged, they're not running from love. They're just done pretending that showing up is the same thing as being seen. Because somewhere along the way, they realized that the loneliest place you can be is in a room full of people who are supposed to know you, but don't. Psychologists talk about something called relational authenticity. It's the ability to be your true self within your relationships. When that authenticity is missing, when you have to edit yourself to be acceptable, your brain registers it as a threat. Not a loud, obvious threat, but a quiet erosion of safety. Over time, your nervous system learns that this environment requires you to disappear a little. And disappearing, even partially, takes enormous energy. Let me tell you what this looked like for Macaulay Culkin. At 10 years old, he became a global phenomenon. Home Alone made him the most recognizable child on Earth. But behind the smiles and the fame, something dark was happening. His father, Kit Culkin, had quit his own acting career to manage Macaulay's. And with that decision came control. Absolute, suffocating control. In interviews years later, Macaulay described his father as a bad man. Not just strict, not just tough, abusive, physically and mentally. He recalls one moment that haunts him. I was making God knows how much money, and my father was making me sleep on the couch just because he could, just to let me know who's in charge. Think about that. A child earning millions denied a bed to sleep in as a power move. Macaulay learned early what so many people in toxic family systems learn, that love in his family wasn't unconditional. It came with requirements: perform, earn, don't question, don't resist. He spent his childhood reading the room, managing emotions that weren't his to manage, and shape-shifting to survive. But at 14, something shifted. His parents separated, and for the first time, Macaulay saw an opening. He said, "Great, I quit because now he's out of the picture. I hope you guys had a good time and made as much money as you possibly could because there's no more coming from me." At 14 years old, this child took his parents' names off his trust fund and found an independent executor. It wasn't emancipation legally, but emotionally, it absolutely was. During the custody battle, his lawyer warned him he'd be held in contempt of court if he didn't visit his father. Macaulay's response? "I dare the judge to put me in jail for not wanting to visit his abusive father. I double dare him to arrest the most famous kid in the world." That was the moment he stopped performing. Now, 30 years later, Macaulay Culkin hasn't spoken to his father once. Not a single conversation in 3 decades. And he's not alone. All 7 of his siblings are estranged from their father. None of his 4 grandchildren know him. When asked if his father feels any remorse, Macaulay said, He's done the mental gymnastics to wash it all away, like things never happened. He thinks we're wrong and he's right. He's one of those narcissistic, crazy people. Today, Macaulay is engaged to actress Brenda Song. They have 2 beautiful sons together. And here's what he says now. "There's one word I throw around with my kids like a gunslinger that I never heard growing up. Proud." He tells his children he's proud of them, constantly, unconditionally, not because they earned it, not because they performed, but because they exist. That's the cycle he's breaking. That's what healing looks like.
Macaulay's story illustrates something profound that psychologists have been studying for decades: the concept of chosen family. Chosen family isn't about rejecting blood relatives out of cruelty. It's about recognizing that family, real family, is defined by care, effort, and mutual respect, not genetics. For people who grew up in environments like Macaulay's, family gatherings aren't celebrations, they're minefields. You're navigating old wounds, unspoken resentments, and dynamics that haven't changed in decades. You're walking on eggshells, managing emotions, playing referee, or worse, playing invisible. Here's what's fascinating. The people who choose not to go to family gatherings are often the most emotionally aware people you'll meet. They've done the work. They've looked at their patterns, their wounds, their triggers. They've realized that just because something is tradition doesn't mean it's healthy. They've stopped confusing loyalty with self-abandonment. And that awareness is what gives them permission to choose differently. Studies in psychology show that people who enforce healthy boundaries report higher levels of emotional well-being and lower levels of anxiety. That's not a coincidence. That's proof that protecting your peace works. But even with that clarity, the choice isn't easy. There's guilt, deep, heavy guilt, because we're taught from childhood that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that you owe your family your presence no matter what. When you step away from that narrative, the guilt follows you. You wonder if you're being too sensitive, too unforgiving, too harsh. But here's the truth that changes everything. You don't owe anyone access to you at the expense of your peace. You don't owe anyone a relationship that requires you to betray yourself. And you don't owe anyone forgiveness, presence, or performance just because you share DNA. Macaulay Culkin made his choice. At 14, he stopped going. He stopped performing. He stopped pretending that dysfunction was love. And 30 years later, he's not filled with regret, he's filled with peace. He's building the family he never had. He's giving his children the unconditional acceptance he was denied. If you're someone who doesn't go to family gatherings, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're not missing out. You're choosing differently. You're refusing to settle for the shallow version of connection. You're holding out for the real thing. Maybe your family will change, maybe bridges will be rebuilt, but until then, you're allowed to stay on your side of the river. You're allowed to build your own version of home. Because at the end of the day, people who don't go to family gatherings aren't running from love, they're running toward it. The real kind. The kind that doesn't ask you to disappear. The kind that doesn't punish you for being human. The kind that says, you belong here, just as you are. And maybe that's the greatest gift you can give yourself, the permission to find that love, even if it's not where you expected it to be. Macaulay Culkin found it, and you can too.